So whether it's in his favor or otherwise, he's going to respect it. That's very important. And I think Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta needs to do the same. He also needs to speak to the nation and tell us that whatever the Supreme Court is going to do is going to respect the outcome. If they say that the election was not
at some point, though, it was good for the candidates to say that we want to pledge to maintain peace. We want to pledge to agree to go with what the IBC says. I do not think it should be left to the candidate to come out and say that I'm going to respect the judiciary. That is a must. Okay. For as long as you're a citizen of this country, it is not a negotiable that you respect the ruling of the judiciary.
What we need to do that. Kenya as a nation at some stage you had sunk so low that we don't have the respect of the bare minimums. And these two candidates command huge audiences. They've got emotional connection with people, and their word is low. Sometimes their followers respect their word more than they respect the Bible or even the Quran, which is why they must come out in black and white and say, I'm going to respect this. At some stage we may take basics for granted, but you see where the rubber meets the road, we have to be very careful. Because I would imagine that if Mr. Raila Odinga says that I'm not going to place a premium on the outcome of the Supreme Court, then that would give room for some of his supporters to engage in mischief. And the same would happen to Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, which is important, even if it's only for records, that they come out and state in public.
I just want to come in. I am not a Kenyan who voted. I was, and I witnessed the elections from the beginning up to the end. In a part of the world where I come from, usually we don't discuss matters that are before court. Therefore, I would respect that as an outsider. But I want to make few comments basing on the case studies that the court might discuss. I remember in 2006, ourselves in Uganda opposition, we went to the Supreme Court of Uganda and we filed a case against President Museveni and the government of NRM for having, eaten our votes. Call it eating our votes. The summary of that ruling is actually available. Anybody can look at it and what the 6 judges of the Supreme Court said. That although there were irregularities, these irregularities did not mar the overall outcome. So we kept quiet. So at this moment,
at that point, what did you feel? I mean, as the people who had gone to court,
as Ugandans,
who felt
we wanted justice. Dr. Besige and our groups, opposition groups, we wanted justice. But when the court said that, we put Uganda first. We looked at it and said, what do we do? It's all right. The court is the final court in the country, has said President Museveni took 75% of the vote. Let's leave it and wait for another 5 years. All what I'm trying to arrive to is, let's take this. This is the final end of the election period. The Constitution allows every Kenyan to go up to the final hurdle. That now, instead of those people who wanted to cut the others in the middle, they can finish it there. Let's wait. But as we wait, my caution as a conflict resolution expert in the world is, please, let's tell our supporters to accept the outcome of the court so that we maintain this peace. I'm very happy. Anybody can call me any names, but I'm very happy that there is peace in that Rift Valley. For the first time in your Kenyan history, there was no stone thrown in an election in Naivasha, Nakuru, and all the hotbeds. So, if there are problems now over figures, these percentages and this, let the court sort out. Let people tell their supporters, as he said, some of these leaders are like a Bible and a Quran to people. Let them tell them, wait for the verdict of the court.
Actually, a listener actually points it out to me, and yes. I think this is correct. Paul Irongo Kogi says, yesterday in Mombasa, Uhuru Kenyatta said he'll accept and respect the decision of the Supreme Court on petitions. Yes, indeed, he said that. He said, if the court decides we go back to the people, we will go back to the people.
Yeah, that's important. And for me, maybe now going to the next level, assuming that the Supreme Court says that court doesn't have a very strong case, then now Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta must go the extra mile in the formation of his cabinet
and reach out,
or in the formation of his government, and reach out and ensure that everybody in Kenya accepts his leadership. What I mean to say is that about 50% of Kenyans did not vote for Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, and the rest voted for Mr.
About
Raila
40.
Odinga.
Let's correct it. About 43%
voted for Raila
Please,
Odinga. Then
don't confuse.
Well, you notice I said about 50%.
No.
I didn't give a
That
figure.
is a
Another way to put it would be say about half.
half.
Okay.
About half.
We know the figures. It's 43%. Why do we want to tell lies to ourselves?
The reason it's important.
What
The reason
Dismas
it's
has said,
important.
hold on. What Dismas has said, I'll remind you. Dismas has said about 50% did not vote for Uhuru. That is a fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
They voted for Raila, for Dida, for Moite, for Peter Kenneth, for Musalia Mudavadi.
but that's what I'm
everybody
talking about
else. Right.
Now let's based
Go
on
on.
And that of course goes the issue of legitimacy.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
Yeah. Now based on that premises, this discussion is
very
becoming
serious.
very exciting.
Yeah.
Now based on that
They are
premises,
Kenyans. At the end of the day, you are right.
my expectation of Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta is to immediately stop impunity, mediocrity, and corruption by respecting Wanjiku. For instance, Wanjiku said she's not interested in having somebody like Najib Balala or Professor Ngeri or Makwere. So when he's going to form his cabinet, he must ensure that people who have lost in any seat, Wanjiku has said no to them, they don't get to office. And when he's forming his cabinet, he must ensure that his cabinet reflects the face of Kenya. That in his cabinet of say about 24 people, you've got somebody from Mandera, you've got somebody from Kisii, that it reflects that all Kenyans get opportunities.
Actually,
So
he's been told that by the Constitution.
Well, but you know, these guys are very clever, and you can easily play around with the Constitution to do that.
Let me come in here.
Latif, allow me to complete that.
Yeah.
And on the second point, he must again have a clean break from the old guards who surrounded his father when he was president.
But it is,
And he must run away from having them in office. And you know, people have in mind that I'd like to see in the cabinet is somebody like Matsanga, please just allow me to say this. You know, you have people like you have people like say Mugo Kibati, who's performed well at Vision 2030. Those are the kind of people you want to see. Odoro Tieno, there is a Nyaga Kindiki, Professor Nyaga Kindiki, people who've done very well in education matters. Those are the people that we want to run government, so that if you're a contractor, you're building roads, you do not need to know the cabinet secretary for roads for you to access a contract. That the cabinet must create opportunities for the entire nation. That if you are a shoe shiner on Moi Avenue and you shine your shoes very well, you can in fact become Dr. Matsanga's neighbor in Karen, and you know you shine your shoes very well, and because of opportunities that have been created, you can become a millionaire. But if he goes back and starts, dishing out these seats because maybe Professor Ngeri got me some votes from Kisii and Gil got me some votes from Kitui, then as a nation we may not make progress.
I think let me make the Constitution. You're right to say the Constitution of Republic of Kenya is very clear. It has two sets of appointments. We have principal secretaries, we have technocrats going to run the real show. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Kenyatta because I don't work for Mr. Kenyatta, but I believe he being a national figure. Yes, assumption. Yeah, assumption. You see, one of the things Latif is
we'll ask him the same question.
Yes.
For Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
Let's
do you work for Raila Odinga? That's why you are here. I don't work for Uhuru Kenyatta.
Well, I wish to declare that I work for Wanjiku.
No, I don't work for Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. I have never worked for him. But what I believe is this: he is going to look at a national outlook. I saw a few of the things in the papers where he's bringing technocrats, the people who have really served the nation, and rightly say you must have a balance. The regional balance in selecting,
must be there.
It must be there. So he's not, his cabinet or wherever, these people, his advisors are making sure that he gets the right people from each corner so that marginalized places, areas in Kenya have representation. And there's service delivery here.
Still talking on this issue of looking at the 50% who voted for Uhuru and the other half of the country that did not vote for Uhuru. Really, everybody understands, it should be assumed, that when you vote for your candidate and the candidate does not win, the candidate that wins is going to be your leader.
True.
And it doesn't mean that now I have to come into appointing you so that you can see, that you can feel that you're part of this government, because we also still need that 50% to keep the 50% in check.
You see, the reason why that works in mature democracies like America. I mean,
And ours is also becoming a mature democracy.
it's becoming, but it's not yet there. I mean, the difference being that in America, you win an election because you are discussing issues of tax, that you would like to raise tax or you would like to lower tax. Then you're voted on that basis. But the situation which obtains in Kenya today is about tribal mathematics. It's nothing got to do with issues, which is why it needs to be very careful with that. And then the second thing that is worrying, and I'd like Benji to comment on this, is that the fact that Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta is now seeking to get support from other political parties, which is extremely dangerous in my view for democracy, because he's going to have a majority in the Senate and a majority in Parliament. And my understanding of the way these democracies are supposed to work, we should be emulating a country like America. Well, Obama is a Democrat and is a president, but he has to negotiate with the Republicans. Because the situation which is going to obtain at this particular stage is that Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta will have a lot of influence and his will pass without negotiating with anybody, either in Parliament or in the Senate.
There are countries like Japan, like Israel, where governments are formed by coalitions. Whether you win, you come in and you form a coalition because you have to bring in the other parties so that you actually get a number.
Let's talk Turkey, and let me respond to my friend Dismas. I'll respond to my friend Dismas by quoting Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta in 2004, and I quote, as leader of KANU, as chairman of KANU and as a member of parliament for Gatundu South, I believe. Mr. Kenyatta said, and I quote, that President Kibaki has done what even Moi never did, and that is to poach from smaller parties to cushion and pad his numbers. That is a very, very well understood and very well remembered quote. I think it's very important as we talk about legitimacy to understand that George W. Bush in 2005 was Person of the Year, received the Time Person of the Year, for the simple fact that he was president even though so many Americans had voted against him. As a first-year student in Chicago, I remember very well following closely the re-election campaign of President Bill Clinton, my president at the time, who came out and campaigned in 2 weeks against an old man, very wealthy, called Bob Dole. And I remember very well the issues were about balancing the budget and tax increments, as Dismas has alluded to. And the president was re-elected on an 80% margin. An 80% margin gives you absolute legitimacy on the record. He did not even campaign much at all. And so when you're talking about ethnic, the problem with part of where we've come now in the last few weeks, Latif, is the reemergence of ethnicity on a larger scale, ethnic formations in politics, and also the what you call grievance politics as
now,
well.
this is where I'm going to stop you, because when you say that it has re-emerged in the last couple of weeks, you're actually not telling us the truth.
Well, it's
this
gotten
has never gone away.
It has gotten enhanced.
It has not gotten enhanced now because
I was in a meeting the other day, Latif. Let me just complete. I was in a meeting the other day where
in 2008, Benji,
where a young man
in
said
2008,
you know the work
it was 41 against 1.
I totally understand. Like,
now it's 40 against 2.
It's unfortunate
it's the same
that
thing.
and the sunset of Kibaki's years, that is leaving the country more tribally divided and more tribally conscious. I was in a meeting the other day where a young man said, and you know, because of my advocacy work, this is what we do. We meet guys, we exchange ideas, we do all manner of forums. When this guy said to me, I don't understand why everybody would blame the Kikuyu. You know, without the Kalenjin, we would not have gotten there. It's the Kalenjin who have enabled this thing to go. Yet, even where I live, everybody's saying, what is wrong with you Kikuyus? Why must you guys always be at the forefront, etc., etc.? And these are questions and issues that are raised that I need to give answers to. And so the tribal consciousness is more raised, and at the altar of it is sacrificed.
Let me come in here to support a bit of the argument here. The Constitution of Kenya states very categorically. You see, part of what has killed Africa is us, the elite, who try to explain things in different way.